The Boston College secondary is good enough that it will make the Eagles dangerous in the ACC.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for scoops, analysis, and all the Boston College details that you want, you are in the right place. We are a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we're going to talk about BC's basketball out-of-conference schedule. It came out last week. I'll give you my thoughts on that and why I think it's really easy, but should be scary if it doesn't go right. We'll also look at where the tight ends and wide receivers are at, and why I think that's a good-looking group, and why the secondary is really exciting. Let's get into all of that. But before we do that, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Make every moment more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Since we last spoke, Boston College has had a handful of practices, and we got a better feel after the first week of where Boston College is at. And one of the big takeaways that I got has to be the play of the secondary. Through the first four practices, that unit itself has stood out more than any other grouping that I've seen. And yes, I know it's only four practices. Yes, I know it's really jumping the gun a little bit, but I'm here to tell you about what I've seen. And what I've seen about that secondary has been really good. Now, folks have been asking, what does the grouping look like? You've seen a lot of Ashton McShane. Ashton Cunningham's out there too. Ashton McShane, Max Tucker, Syair Torrence, KP Price, Omar Thornton, Cam Martinez, and Carter Davis. Those guys have been around a lot. And then the younger guys. But the name that, as I said last week, that really stood out so far has been Syair Torrence. And I know I talked about him twice last week, but I need to also mention that he made big plays again in both practices I went to this weekend. He is an animal. This guy is everywhere. And it's in run coverage. It's in pass protection coverage. He's making interceptions. Like, this is a guy that's going to have to get on the field. Right now, Amari Jackson is padded, but he's not practicing in the 7v7 and 11v11 portions of practice. So he's going to come back soon. So you've got a glut of talent in that secondary. And Torrance really kind of epitomizes that, because I went into this offseason, and if you listen to some of the old episodes, thinking like, oh, this secondary is going to be really good because you got, as I mentioned, McShane, Tucker, KP, and Carter, and then you could figure out, one more person and you'd be okay. I never thought, just watching a week of camp, that the biggest name that we'd be talking about is someone that I didn't even mention, and that is Syair Torrence. So he's going to play, and I'm curious to see what they do with him once Amari Jackson comes back. Do they move Amari inside? Try him at slot? Do they move Syair inside? Syair's been playing outside corner, so he's been doing a lot of that. But they're going to have to figure something out, because he's got to be on the field. Like, if this continues what we saw this first week, he's got to play. Like, you cannot not get him on that field. So really exciting to see him that way. But the reason I also brought up, as you see, this isn't just the Syair Torrence show in the secondary. There's a lot of guys out there making plays. This Omar Thornton, for instance, safety, free safety. We saw him a bunch last year. He had his moments. He was a freshman. He also has moments where he struggled. I think he's developing more and more into a heat-seeking missile. That's the best way I can describe Omar Thornton. This guy loves to hit, and he hits hard. Because just like I mentioned with Torrance as a guy who just seems to be making plays and has a knack to get around that ball, Thornton is a guy that anytime that he is close enough to a running back or a ball carrier, he is going to make a hit. Now, to be fair, right now they're not playing with pads on. They're up to shoulder pads at this point. But, things got chippy on Saturday because Thornton was hitting hard. He hits hard. And I think that kind of got the defense riled up. It got the offense riled up for a different reason. But that's kind of what he does. I think that's going to be special. We don't even need to get into what KP Price is going to be like. He's the ring general of that secondary. And so you have him basically being the leader of that group of a bunch of guys that are going to be really good because, I don't talk enough about Max Tucker. This is a guy who makes big plays a lot, and he's going into his third year. So I really feel like he's set to blossom too. Like, that's why I look at the secondary and go, wow, this is a reason to get excited about this football team because they're just really good. And I want to say too, like, there's younger guys coming up that I watched today. Like on Sunday, I watched Ashton Cunningham make a big play. I saw Marcellus Townsend make a big play. I regularly see TJ Green making plays and Najeeta Sankala. Like, the depth is getting better and better. And you can see the iron sharpening iron with this group. Because when the secondary, especially the guys that you might project to start, are playing against the Reed Harrises and the Lewis Bonds and the Jaden Skeets, you can see the guys that are ready for that because they're just on those guys like glue. There was I put a lot of stock into Syair Torrence, but there was one play on Sunday. He did get burned a little bit by Reed Harris and basically tackled him in the end zone before the ball got there. So that, everything is about, if you talk to the guys, they always say this, getting 1% better every day. And that's what they're shooting for. So they're not going to be perfect right now, but they're working to get better. And I think what you're seeing is a defense that's going to make BC really challenging when they're playing a lot of these passing teams. I still think a team like Clemson is going to be tough. But I look at a lot of these other teams and I say, the secondary is going to get BC a lot of interceptions. They're going to be tough, and they're going to make big plays. And I think that's going to really be the definition of what this defense is. Through the first week, that's what I've seen. Now, for other pieces you're asking about, I know what you're going to want to know about. Grayson James versus Dylan Lonergan. I'm not going to do a whole segment on it because really, after a couple more practices, I still can't tell. I would say on Saturday, Grayson James was a tad better, but I thought Dylan Lonergan looked even better on Sunday. So the jury's still out there. Neither guy looks bad. James on Saturday was pushing the ball more downfield than Lonergan, but Lonergan also is very mobile, and he's good at rolling out and doing a lot of stuff with his feet. So that, I thought, is something that I really didn't know about. And sorry, I meant what you want to know about. And so Bill said he has no date that he's going to make a decision by. He's going to know when he knows. And if just from my perspective, and I'm not a college football head coach with 35 years of experience, just watching, I say, I don't know yet. I just can't tell. Now, Wednesday, I believe, is going to be a scrimmage. It's in Alumni Stadium. Usually that means a scrimmage. That should give us those are always better gauges of what's going on with BC football. So maybe then we'll get a better grasp of what the where things stand with Lonergan and James. So we'll have all that on Thursday's show. So don't you worry, I'll get that covered for you in a moment. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball because it isn't all just defense. The offense had some plays too. And I want to talk about the wide receivers and tight ends. Both of these positions are looking sneaky deep, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. Time to fuel up and turn it up with the 5-hour transfusion. Energy transfusion, excuse me. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need to make that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I remember I went golfing with my wife's family, all the guys, for a bachelor party, and I had not golfed in a while. I had to get myself up and listen, practice, got my chipping game a little better, and I was able to hold my own and not embarrass myself, and that was a proud moment for me. And golf is all about good times with good people. So if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5energy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider, and to all my first listeners, all you guys out there, I know so many of you are starting to get into that football swing, and you've been listening first thing every morning, checking out our talk about camp from last week, getting all the news from us on Eagle Insider as well. Thank you so much. Now, let's get into the offensive side of the ball. As I said, not going to get into quarterbacks today. And I kind of got into Turbo versus Alex Broom last week, so I think we're going to get into some tight ends and wide receiver talk from camp. Because the tight end room looks pretty good, I'd say. I'm a little concerned that maybe the depth isn't as good as you may think, but I think they're good. I think they're in a good spot. And I think it starts with two guys right now. It's Ty Lockwood and Jeremiah Franklin. Jeremiah Franklin does not get enough credit, and I really want to make sure that is clear because I think he's an excellent tight end. Good hands. He's not the fastest guy out there for a tight end, but he's a weapon for your offense, and that's what you need. Like, he's good enough to score you a couple touchdowns, make a couple tough catches near the end zone, and that's what you get out of him. Plus, he's pretty good at blocking, which I don't think enough people talk about when they talk about how a tight end plays. So that was one. Ty Lockwood, too. He's definitely someone who I think is really high. I'm really high on for this year, 2025. Because I watch him out there, and he just moves well. He's not fast either. He's faster, but he's not fast. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like he's a fast tight end. Like, I don't want to compare him to Gronk because that's a lazy comparison. But he's a guy that is big. He's got a good radius for catching, and that makes him challenging out there for opposing defenses to stop him. He's looked good so far at camp. He's definitely more involved than I remember him in the spring, so that's good. Like, you want to see that jump, right? You want to see the jump from the spring when a transfer comes in, and you're like, he's maybe a little wide-eyed and trying to learn a new system and all that stuff. I don't see that anymore out of him. He really does seem like he's been around, and that's perfect. That means he's done his work. He's been reading the playbook. Perfect. Then there's other tight ends, and these other tight ends I think so far have really caught my attention. And I don't think it's more so that they're going to actually play. They may. I don't know. But I think you're going to see some of these guys maybe in future years. The big one right now is Kalen Chudzinski. I don't think I would be surprised if he plays this year because Bill's already said, like, he's not big enough to block, and I think that's important for him. Maybe he did. That was in the spring he said that. I'm not sure if maybe if he changed that since then. But what I do notice is in the pass game, good hands on this kid. Really good hands. To the point where I watch him sometimes and I'm like, I wonder if they would honestly consider moving him to wide receiver, which I think he played in high school. Because he's got good size. He's like 6'3", but he's smaller. Like, he's not like a big tight end, and that just seems like it's as important. So I watch him and think that way. And then guys like Brady Clogue, and then I saw Stevie Amar today, who I think he's, looks like a freshman right now, but I watch him and I think to myself, he's going to pick up quick. So he's another one to watch for. That's the freshman tight end from California that's on the roster. So I look at this group, and I think it's a little top-heavy, but you've got the development and pieces coming in. And I think that's what's going to be super important for building your depth in going to the future. The wide receiver room, I think, is kind of the same way. Now, I've reported this because we're allowed to talk about injuries if we talk to Bill O'Brien first. And Bill's been great. Bill's been up front with us, the media. about who is out and who isn't. Halfley was like, it was like, trying to decode the Da Vinci Code because he just wouldn't tell you. O'Brien's a little bit more upfront. He's told us that VJ Wilkins hasn't practiced because he has a hamstring injury. He pulled it during summer conditioning, so he isn't in there yet. He's there in pads too, so that's a good sign. Like, I feel like he'll be back pretty soon. But you haven't seen him. But the guys that you're hoping for look great. Reed Harris, I don't know what Craig Fitzgerald puts in their Cocoa Puffs for breakfast, but Reed Harris looks jacked this year. Like, he has clearly bought into their conditioning program because he's moving well and he's big. Like, he's just big. And he's going to be exciting to watch this year. I just think his development in learning the position and the changes in the size of him, he's just going to be really good. He's made the few big plays I've seen at camp too. And then Lewis Bond, he's just consistency right there, right? So you get those ones. Jaden Skeet is back. I love seeing him back out there. On Sunday, he was the one guy that caught a huge deep pass. He burned, I forget, it was, I think, one of the freshmen on his way to the end zone. And he just looks good. He looked good. And then you've got like your younger guys. You're going to see guys like Ned Bolden, Dawson Pogue. You've got those two guys. Samaj Fleming just came in. Those guys are going to be ready too. But I really think it's those four right now. Skeet, Bond, Harris, and then VJ when he gets back. But watching some of these other guys are great too. And, obviously you get someone like Luke McLaughlin too, who maybe won't play much, but he's been around, and I know a lot of staff members really like him too. So he could be someone you could be seeing at some point too. So those two groups, I think, are in very good shape. And there's the good stratification too of guys that are ready to play and guys that are developing. And the guys that are developing are hopefully good enough that, like, when you need them, they got to be ready to play. Like, I look at Stevie Amar, and next year you're going to have Ty Lockwood, who goes with him. Could see it being Amar the way he's playing. So that'll be something to watch for too. In our final segment, let's switch it over to basketball. And I only bring it up because the new out-of-conference schedule came out, and it's gross. And it reeks of something, and I'm going to explain what the smell is and why in just a moment. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever to get concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their last-minute killer deal prices. If you're tired of scrolling, if you're looking for the Sabrina Carpenter seats or see Ed Sheeran or Kendrick Lamar, and you're looking, I'm telling you, Game Time will have those seats for those concerts that are coming through. And with Game Time, the price you pay is the price you pay. The seat is the price that you pay. No hidden fees. So take the guesswork out of buying concerts and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider, and shout out to all my everydayers out there that listen to Locked on Boston College 5 days a week. We have 5 shows every week, and if you're looking for Boston College news, you're in the right spot. And if you're looking for ACC news, check out Locked on ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Donald. That's available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, late last week, Boston College basketball finally released their out-of-conference schedule. And I'm not going to put it up on the screen because it makes the screen look crappy, and I'll just talk about it. You have some decent matchups. You're going to play FAU, who was in the Final Four a couple of years ago. You have an exhibition game that doesn't count against UConn. You play UMass. That's fun. And you play LSU. Look at the rest of the schedule. You play New Haven, FDU. You play Temple, Hampton, Central Connecticut. You play in the Shriners Children's Classic, and you play a team called Lemoyne and Harvard. That's your out-of-conference schedule. Oh, and the Citadel, too. Can't forget the Citadel. I look at this, and remember, teams get to create their own out-of-conference schedules. They work out these arrangements, and I have a few thoughts. This is where BC's at, and they need to figure out how to win basketball games. So on one hand, I'm glad that they're doing this because you need to win basketball games. You can't go into conference schedule already struggling. And hopefully when you basically put out a bunch of wins like that, you follow through and win those. But I'm also not naive. I followed BC basketball for a long time. And I remember, it seems like every year now, BC loses a what the heck game. We'll call it that. You can think of what word I probably would rather say, but I'm not going to. And I look at the schedule and say, okay, first of all, these need to be wins because this looks to me like it's A, made to win, and B, like this is we need to save Earl Grant's job type of schedule. Like, let's get him a whole bunch of wins so he can keep his job. That's what it looks like to me. But there's always a flip side to this. Say Boston College plays Lemoyne, who, unless you already know the school, put in the comments what state you think Lemoyne is in, or anything about Lemoyne, because I don't know anything about Lemoyne other than they either beat or almost beat Syracuse a couple years ago. I had to look that up. I remembered hearing about it, but now I know about it. But think if BC loses to Lemoyne or Central Connecticut, the pressure on Earl Grant before you even get to ACC games is going to be astronomical. The fan base will check out. So Alumni Stadium, Conti Forum will be dead. And you will be looking at a season that's completely lost again. So it's always a double-edged sword. If you're good enough that you can take care of the schedule, and maybe you drop one to Harvard or FAU or whatever, or FAU and LSU, because I'm sure LSU is probably going to be good, right? Then you're okay. But if you drop multiple buy-in games to bad teams, and if you just look at the Ken Palm ratings of some of these teams, it's bad, then you're in big trouble. So BC better know what they're doing because you just made your life every one of these games is going to be critical for you. So if you cannot go out there and just lay a stinker, and that's what they've done. That's like, the thing is, this is the frustrating thing about BC basketball. Let me just go off on a tangent here. Other than they don't make the tournament ever, is that they play these games and you see a team that you're playing with a Ken Palm rating of like 320 and you're only beating them by like 6 points with like 5 minutes left. BC needs to paste these teams. You're an ACC school, play like an ACC school, and beat them up. But they never do. So that stuff worries me because when you let these smaller programs hang around, they smell blood in the water and they just pounce and they can win games. So I'm worried about this schedule because it's tailor-made to win a bunch, but if you screw it up, it's going to make your season that much worse. On tomorrow's show, we're going to have Mitch Wolf on. Mitch is going to talk to us about some bold predictions that he has for the upcoming season. I want to hear all about that. And then on Wednesday's show, we'll start talking about more practice. Thursday we'll have recapping of the scrimmage. We'll get this week packed. And I got Gio Colada of Eagle Insider wanting to come on and talk football soon too. So we're everywhere. Thank you for following. Check me out on Twitter at AJBlack247. I'm also available on Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Check out TikTok at Locked On Boston College. It's a fast growing platform for me there. I get a ton of new followers, and if you're here from TikTok, thank you. That we're a daily Boston College podcast. We're available 5 days a week. Hit that like and subscribe button before you head out. And I will see all of you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.